comes from two sources. The first includes experts and authorities in the fields of dentistry, health, medicine, and science. You've heard about the more than 90 international organizations that regard community water fluoridation as a safe and effective public health measure to prevent cavities. But just last month, the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Regina Benjamin, officially endorsed community water fluoridation as one of the most effective choices communities can make to improve the oral health of their citizens. In April last year, our province's own Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Arlene King, recommended in her special report on oral health that all Ontarians have access to optimally fluoridated drinking water. All of these respected organizations have a long history of making decisions and recommendations that have benefited the overall health of communities worldwide. They have debated the benefits of fluoride within their own centers of critical scientific thinking, with access to a much broader base of knowledge than we could ever have individually. All have recognized and promoted the benefits of community water fluoridation like we have here at Carleton Place. The other source of raw knowledge, and the one I would like to focus on, is our own experience as dentists, which comes from our education, our training, and care of our patients. In my quarter century of practice, I, like many of my colleagues, have seen the significant impact drinking water without fluoride has had on oral health. Patients who grew up drinking non-fluoridated water have more decay and fillings. There's no doubt that in general, a community with optimal levels of water fluoridation is a more dentally healthy community. Even with the increasing challenges of a hectic lifestyle that exposes us to more sugar, cavity-causing foods, and acidic drinks than ever before, fluoridated water on its own still gives us 30% fewer cavities. It works. Carleton Place is a wonderfully rewarding place to live and work, thanks to the efforts of people such as yourself. We all know the history, beauty, and opportunities of living here, but we also know that not everyone here is so well off. On the dental side, water fluoridation helps to level the playing field. For the young and not so young, it is an inexpensive way to give all better dental health. It's a healthy investment. As dentists, we are concerned what will happen to the oral health of our community if we remove fluoride from the drinking water. The thought of treating an increasing dental decay amongst our most vulnerable children and seniors is daunting. We know that continuing to provide our community with optimally fluoridated drinking water will help prevent that from occurring. 50 years ago, your predecessors made a decision to fluoridate our town's water. Carleton Place was one of the first communities in Eastern Ontario to do so. Before Toronto or Ottawa or any of the big cities, we took a step that has benefited the dental and overall health of all who have lived here. I stand behind the extensive research and evidence that supports water fluoridation. In closing, I trust the organizations formally recognized as guardians of our public health. I also stand behind my own experiences as a dentist when I ask you on behalf of the oral health of all residents in Carleton Place to keep fluoridating our water. Thank you.
I'm a little bit shorter. Good evening. My name is Lisa Michaud, and I'm an Ontario Works Manager with Lanark County Social Services. On behalf of Lanark County Social Services Department, I would like to discuss the limited dental benefits available to low-income residents in receipt of social assistance. Currently in Lanark County, the average number of families in receipt of social assistance under the Ontario Works Program is 1,155. In 2012, the average number of families in receipt of social assistance under the Ontario Disability Support Program in Lanark County was 2,107. Both Ontario Works and the Ontario Disability Support Program offer limited dental benefits to its recipients. For Ontario Works participants, mandatory basic dental care is available to children under 18 years old only. Coverage is limited, as prescribed under the Ministry of Community and Social Services Schedule of Dental Services and Fees. Basic dental care is not available to Ontario Works applicants, spouses, and their dependents over 18, but rather limited to emergency services that are not preventative in nature. Within the Ontario Disability Support Program, or ODSP for short, only applicants and spouses are eligible for mandatory basic dental care. Dependents 18 years and older are not eligible for dental benefits under this program and must apply through Lanark County's Ontario Works program for limited assistance. Lanark County recognizes the importance of dental care and the role it plays in overall health, sense of well-being, and employability. Our department is able to provide limited dental benefits to Ontario Works adults and ODSP dependent children over 18 through discretionary benefits. Working within the county's approved Ontario Works budget and current ministry capping on discretionary benefits, dental services for adults is limited to emergency services only, and often not enough to pay for their full dental treatment needs. Discretionary dental benefits for adults are currently limited to just $400 per person per year in Lanark County. Dr. Paula Stewart has discussed the merits of water fluoridation and its positive effects as a preventative dental intervention. Any strategies that can provide oral health protection at a low cost to assist those who have access to limited dental coverage will help promote health equality. Thank you.
We will now take questions from the floor, and please use that mic there and identify yourselves.
Excuse me, I'm just
Sorry.
the questions from the council first before.
Yeah, sorry, I broke protocol there. We will take questions and comments from council. Mayor Law.
I actually have a number of questions, and I apologize, but I think these are questions that, well, they are questions that I need the answers to. So I'm going to direct my first questions to Dr. Stewart or me. Would you please comment on the use of the word medicate when used in conjunction with fluoride? Dr. Stewart, please.
Mayor, certainly. The term medicate in terms of water fluoridation is just simply not synonymous. And fluoride, when it's in water, is described by Health Canada and defined as a beneficial element or a mineral. It's not a medication at all. It's not classified under the Food and Drugs Act. It is a freestanding ion which is found in water at the tap, same as you find it on a natural level here. We use as an analogy equivalent water fluoridation to fortification there. In other words, you would fortify salt with another halogen, which would be iodine. You can fortify foods with vitamins, depending on what you want, orange juice with vitamin D or vitamin E, depending on what you want to supplement. But we regard it, if anything, as a fortification. It certainly isn't a medication at all, and doesn't classify as that in Canada.
Thank you. May I go ahead?
Go ahead,
Okay.
yes, please.
My next question is, can you comment on fluorosis that could possibly be caused by the ingestion of toothpaste?
Certainly, Your Worship. In terms of toothpaste, when the expert panel came together, and these were very, very well qualified. Just in case anyone is having any doubts about the integrity of the expert panel, they're very, very professional, very well qualified, and include a toxicologist. So this isn't just a group of dentists philosophizing about life. This is a very well qualified toxicologist from Quebec, world renowned. In terms of your question, they looked at that. And they found that fluorosis in Canada, if it were due to anything, would have been due to kids swallowing toothpaste. The other concern they had was that it may be due to fluoride supplementation. In terms of water fluoridation, at the level that fluoride is in water, which is 0.5 to 0.8 parts per million, it does not cause, and I will repeat this, moderate or severe fluorosis, which are the types of fluorosis we're worried about. It can cause very mild fluorosis, which is a mild whitening of the teeth, which actually strengthens the enamel. When kids are asked if they like that, they usually do because they like their teeth being whiter. So when you're talking about severe fluorosis, which is moderate fluorosis or severe, that is not a problem with fluoridated water, but it can be caused by very, very young kids swallowing large amounts of toothpaste. That's why the Canadian Pediatric Society recommends to have toothpaste kept away from little kids.
Could you comment, just to follow up on that one, when did it occur that on the Crest toothpaste tube it actually says size of a pea and not to be ingested? I actually have just noticed that in the last number of years, and I certainly didn't notice it as a parent, a young child.
Certainly there are national policies that were agreed to by the Canadian Dental Association and by Health Canada, such that uniform information would be given to parents and particularly young mums. And what we suggest is that for kids between the ages of 3 and 6, that you try and keep to a small amount, a pea-sized amount. For little kids who are high risk, less than 3, you just use a rice grain. That's purely intended as a safety precaution because if you look at the concentration of fluoride in toothpaste, it's about 1,100 to 1,200 parts per million, whereas in water it's 0.5. So obviously it's far more concentrated in terms of toothpaste. That's why those recommendations are there.
Okay, I have a question that is actually of you, that comes from something that Sheldon mentioned. He said that the fluoride ion has to pass to the teeth via the bloodstream. So why then would we use fluoridated toothpaste, or toothpaste with fluoride in them, which are effective topically, as I understand it? So if you could explain that. Does it pass through the bloodstream, or is it through topical application?
Certainly there I can. There are 2 advantages to fluoride. The primary, as Sheldon mentioned, is in a topical form. When a tooth has erupted, it goes into the enamel. What we call, it binds into the hydroxyapatite crystals of the enamel, just basically makes it stronger and harder. That's the topical effect. The other effect, which Dr. Stewart mentioned, is also correct. That's the systemic effect. It has a lesser effect than the topical, but it certainly has a very valuable effect, particularly when we go through what we call immunogenesis, which is the formation of the teeth and the gums. It gets bound into the enamel as the tooth is forming in the gum in little kids, and therefore the systemic effect is beneficial. When it erupts, it's the topical effect.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. Now I have a question of Sheldon. I was wondering what proof you have that that fluoride is an enzyme poison, and just exactly how does it work as a poison of enzyme? If you could explain that to me, please.
There are these studies in this large 500-page report. Well, enzymes basically corrupt the chemical structure of a cell. They turn it into something that will not allow it to fulfill its message to the body. So your body is basically firing to create about 10,000 chemical reactions all the time. That's your life, that's your day. Enzymes are like the engine management of all of that body mechanism. And if the enzymes are corrupted, if they can't literally deliver on time, and sometimes not on time, because their chemical signature has changed, then they are not the same, they are corrupted, and they will not do their jobs.
Which particular enzymes are you speaking about?
It could be any enzyme.
I'm asking you which ones. You said that there were 10,000 enzymes.
I said there were 10,000 different chemical reactions, and one of the things I've learned that's a pretty safe policy is that if you don't know the answer, don't make one up. And I'm not going to do
I
that
appreciate
now.
that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question for Robert. I'm wondering, Robert, what your background is. You didn't tell us that when you got up to speak. And I know the backgrounds of Sheldon and also the other people who spoke.
Thank you. Thank you, Beaver.
Can you speak a little louder, please? Thank you. There we
There we go. Okay. My background. So first of all, education. Studied law. Was a police officer. I've done undercover work, so investigating this has actually been quite, ethical skill sets have been quite helpful, especially to release studies that haven't been released to the public. Those were the studies that I had to fight very hard for 7 years to get. A degree in psychology. I studied Canadian business law, of course, criminal law. I have not been called to the bar. I do vet, however, my legal research with the Crown's Office. As you may know, we did take the Ontario Dental Association to task for illegal campaigning in Waterloo. We set Ontario precedent law for how referendums will go forward from now on under the Municipal Elections Act and not under the Fluoridation Act, if the community was to decide to put the question to people. So my background is through a lot of volunteer work over 7.5, almost 8 years now in fluoridation, unpaid, out of my pocket, to try to bring to light what the public has never been told. When we started talking about fluoridation in 2009 in the region of Niagara, there was over 20 dentists and about a dozen dental hygienists who actually were saying to the members of the presenters, it's untrue. They're lying. It's pharmaceutical grade fluoride. It's not industrial toxic waste. It's not from the smokestack scrubbers of the phosphate fertilizer industry. So up until that point in time, given that we started fluoridating in 1945, we also exposed what the experts did not know with all those many decades of saying it was safe and effective. So that's the kind of experience I bring to the plate. It's all volunteer.
Thank you. And I would never in any way decorate anyone's volunteer experience. Thank you. So my last point is actually just a more philosophical point, not a question, but I note that the opponents of the addition of fluoride cite that the proponents are dependent on studies of others, and yet all of your points were dependent on the study of others as well. And I think that I look at the point that Dr. Stevenson made, that we need to be looking at current, legitimate, and peer-reviewed science.
Councillor Bowman.
Thanks. We're on there?
Let it.
We're on?
No.
We're on?
Hello there. Okay, I guess we're good. Just before, I have four specific questions. And before I start, I just want to say that it's been helpful to listen to both sides of the argument. There's lots of information on the fluoride that perhaps we haven't had. We've had many emails over the last few months, which I've found somewhat helpful, sometimes completely unhelpful, depending on the aggressive nature of the question that's being put. I think
give the guy a chance.
Are we good? Okay. So my first question is for Dr. Stewart. You mentioned on the slide about what happens to dental health if water fluoridation stops. You mentioned that Calgary had suspended fluoridation some time ago, and now they're having a rebound. And I've heard that from some other medical people, and I think it's an article I saw in the Financial Post as well. Can you comment on what's going on in places where it has been withdrawn a little more fully?
So there's, can I just clarify that we actually, medical officers actually do think independently. So the studies from that are coming from the dentists in Calgary who are exactly what has been suggested will be a problem. And I'm going to ask Dr. Hamilton, who is the dental consultant for the health unit, to talk specifically about the studies the Canadian studies that showed that there was an increase in dental caries, because he's our local expert.
Thanks very much. My name is Mike Hamilton. I'm the dental public health consultant for the Leeds, Grindle and Lanark Health Unit, and I also work at the clinic at the Ottawa Hospital. So the question basically is what happened in Calgary recently. In 2011, Calgary made the decision after a number of years to remove fluoride from their water supply. And so what's happening now is that the dentists in the area are now starting to see the effects of that. It's about 2 years. And I'm reading from an article that was published in the Calgary Herald. This was by Dr. Sarah Holland, who's a pediatric dentist. We also have a pediatric dentist here who's here from CHEO. It's Dr. Ian McConaughey, and he may be able to give you an idea of exactly what Dr. Holland is speaking about. But basically what's happening is the cavities that are now developing there are cavities that in the past with water fluoridation would grow at a very small rate. A little bit a year, a little bit a year. And what's happening now is that with the fluoride not in the water, the children who are susceptible to that decay, which is usually the people from the lowest socioeconomic ladder, those are the people that are now getting large cavities and very quickly. So what that means is basically for the tooth, if you have a small cavity, you can put a filling into it. If these are on baby teeth, then that tooth will hold its place for the adult teeth to come in. But if that cavity grows deep, and the baby teeth have small teeth with large nerves on them, what happens is eventually you're into root canals, if you will, on baby teeth. That means that that tooth is compromised. It means that that tooth is sometimes lost early, and then what happens is you end up with big orthodontic problems later on. So this is happening in Calgary. There's a group of dentists who are now documenting this. And we're sure that this is going to be an issue down the road. So it's something that you certainly don't want to consider here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sort of a part to that question, to my next question, it relates to who's getting fluoride, who's not getting fluoride. What about the residents who don't live on municipal water supplies? We have lots of people who live on wells. I know some people have home water softening systems. I don't know if the chemical salts they use for home systems have fluoride in them, but lots of people are drinking from wells. What's their situation? How's it working out?
It's interesting, across our region we have varying levels of fluoride in the natural water. So in Smith Falls, their level is about 0.5 in the water itself from the Tate River. So it's really variable. There are many people who have natural levels of fluoride in the water which are comparable to what we would say is beneficial, and others don't. And it means that for the people who don't, if they have dental insurance and go to the dentist and get fluoride varnishes, then they can do okay. But for the kids who don't, it's a problem. And we do dental screenings in schools all across Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville. And there are absolutely some rural communities where the kids have many, many problems and they don't get the benefit from fluoride.
Am I correct in understanding that some municipalities in Halifax is what comes to mind, that they do not put fluoride in their water because they have a natural supply within their existing groundwater that they draw upon?
I don't know about Halifax, but that's absolutely the case. And I mean, fundamentally, you measure the level of fluoride in the water as it's coming in, and then you make the adjustment that it's needed to get it up to the 0.5. And so that's absolutely possible. I don't know about Halifax.
Just happening with my dentist told me she was
Okay.
from Halifax.
Very, very possible. And as I mentioned, this is very carefully calibrated. There's computerized systems that are functioning all the time to make sure that the level stays within that amount.
Okay, thank you. My other two questions are maybe a little more similar. Dr. Stevenson, if I may. It was suggested by Sheldon that dental licenses, dentists are under pressure, and sometimes there's a threat that your license might be pulled if you spoke against fluoridation. Have you ever felt any kind of pressure from any organization whatsoever?
Do I need to go to a mic, or can everybody hear me? Personally, I've never felt any pressure. As I mentioned earlier tonight, even though I am a member of the Ontario Dental Association, I'm speaking tonight as a dentist from this community. But no, I've never heard of that, and I invite any other dentist here to say if they've been subjected to similar.
Okay, thank you. And my last question relates to Mr. Fleming, and it's sort of touched on by Mayor LeBlanc. I don't mean this to be disrespectful or whatever, but anyway, I took an implication from any of your comments that almost anybody who's a governmental speaker on some governmental panels they report a suspect. Are there any agencies at the national level that you do concur with or recognize or support? And if I've taken the wrong implication from some of your words, that's fine too.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. First of all, I'll take the beginning after your question. That I've suggested they can't be trusted. I haven't actually suggested that. I have read you their own resolutions of how they are to behave. So you draw your own conclusions with the factual evidence that I provide. If you would like a copy of the document that contains exactly as I stated, what I stated, I'm happy to provide that, and I invite you to draw your conclusion about your comfort level of trust. I will speak to that as well with the comment about dentists and having some pressure put on them. I was the one who procured the evidence at Thunder Bay, including the video of it, and you can hear it in its entirety unclipped. The question was very clear, and the answer was very clear. It would be investigated. Now, why the relevance? According to the Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Ontario, first of all, it is the self-professed oldest dental college on the globe. Not my words, theirs. It's well established, well respected. They also hold the right to the license, giving and withdrawing for a dentist in the province of Ontario. So when the president of that association says, if a dentist spoke out, say here tonight with the wording, and was not in support of water fluoridation, he actually went on to say, we would also when we were investigating, we would also take a look at their office and see what else they may not be doing correctly and send them back for retraining. Those are not my words, sir. Those are on the video. So I'll let you draw your conclusions about the level of oppression that I believe is being placed upon our medical officers of health and our dentists in the province of Ontario based on words and written documents provided by the people putting that pressure on. I would also, if I may, give you an analogy of a double-blind study in Waterloo about what happens when, it's the reverse of what happens when fluoridation is turned off. For 4 years, we were campaigning in Waterloo to have the fluoride removed from our water, the hydrofluorosilicic acid. And during that entire 4 years, we had heard from neighboring communities, and 2 of them were Elmira and St. Jacobs, how we wish that our children had the fluoride that your Waterloo children have. We can always tell a Waterloo child, the moment they sit in the chair, and I'm using their words, and open their wee mouths, you see the gleaming white teeth. If only the children in Elmira and St. Jacobs had fluoridation in their water, we would see that too, because our kids' teeth are rotten. That's in the media. We kept all of it. It's on waterloowatch.com. You can read the evolution of that. Not my words, dentists in those outlying communities. What they didn't know is 4 years hence to that, I looked at the cross-border water service agreements where Waterloo was sharing their fluoridated water in full form, exactly the concentrations we had in Waterloo for Elmira and all of Elmira and all of St. Jacobs. So these children were getting the same water, yet the dentists somehow were seeing a difference and somehow drew the conclusion that it was the lack of fluoridated water. And let me finish the story with a crescendo. Those children had been receiving fluoridated water all of their lives because the fluoride had been running for 20 years and they were talking about children. So it's quite remarkable how the experts who say, I can always tell, I'm a dentist, I'm in the practice, I'm in the field, I see it every day, that's the language you hear, I see it every day. And they don't know when fluoridation is on or off, but I can tell you, the Public Health Act was changed shortly thereafter to notify medical officers of health not only whether fluoridation overages were occurring, but now if underages are occurring. Because they didn't know when communities were fluoridated and they were kind of getting caught with the statements they made, which didn't jive with the status of the water.
Fair enough. Thank you. One more, but I'll do the other way.
Okay, thanks for that. And I'll legally go quickly with my question. It's for Dr. Stewart, and I take this session tonight very seriously and my decision very seriously, but at the same time I feel like I'm subjected to what I would refer to as a battle of the reports. my inclination as a